Respect India's culture and the law of the land. That's the message dished out to global tech giants from New Delhi as new online rules come into force. Will Meta get better at following the rules, or will anti-social behavior take over? We look at what's changing for platforms this hour. Also, a big push for Indo-Pacific ambitions. India's top environmental body effectively clears the Great Nicobar project, a bold infrastructure plan on the island. We explore the significance. A possible olive branch from Dhaka. Bangladesh's newly appointed sports minister reaches out to India over the T20 Cricket World Cup boycott. That as Prime Minister Narendra Modi invites his new counterpart, Tariq Rahman, for talks. And Russia and Ukraine come to the table on day 2 of the peace talks in Geneva. But will Kyiv listen to Donald Trump and make a deal fast? We've got the latest with 2 days of talks now concluded. Hello and welcome. You're watching RT India. I am Osama Shab, live from New Delhi. We have a packed bulletin ahead with major world developments, including our top story. New Delhi has issued a clear message to big tech: respect the country's culture and constitution. This follows India tightening regulations for social media on flagging up and removing illegal or misleading content.
It's a given that any company which operates must operate within the constitutional framework of the country in which it is operating. So whether it is Netflix or YouTube or Meta or X, they must all operate within the legal framework and the constitution of India. That's very clear.
India has tightened its digital rule book. Let me tell you why the minister said what he said, and also about the new IT framework that is, been announced. Now, for the first time, India has in fact officially recognized AI-generated content under India's IT laws, and synthetically generated information has now been clearly defined in the law. The government is in fact regulating IT outputs at the platform level, although not the AI systems themselves. Platforms must clearly label AI-generated content, and users should in fact be able to tell if the content is, edited via, the use of AI, whether it's video, audio, or photos. In fact, enforcement timelines have also been made much stricter for that matter. Platforms, in fact, must act within 3 hours if there are serious allegations or violations made, and this includes deepfake, deceptions also, and other unlawful AI-generated activities. Now, there is also an exception: good faith content like trimming a particular clip, or perhaps editing the subtitles, which are not misleading, will not be covered in the synthetic content really. But however, big tech companies have pushed back. Take a look.
Operationally, 3 hours given as the takedown window is going to be really challenging. Whenever we get the request from the government to take down content, we will have to look into it, we will have to investigate it and validate it ourselves. And so that's just something that takes some amount of time, particularly if there's something that we need to look into. That's often not possible to turn around in 3 hours.
The 2026 amendment, in fact, comes after there were reports and a rise in the cases of deepfake and, misuse, especially in politics and entertainment sectors. We've seen that, all of these deepfakes had ultimately led to reputational damages also. These incidents are not just as law and order issues, but as they're also directly linked to India's AI ambitions. Now, the government wants India to be both leading AI development and also, using AI with responsibility. Take a look.
My vision is that India should be among the top 3 AI superpowers globally, not just in the consumption of AI, but in its creation. Our AI models will be deployed worldwide, serving billions in their native languages. Our AI startups will be valued in hundreds of billions, creating millions of high-quality jobs.
Well, what are the key fault lines between big tech and the Indian government on AI regulation? The social media companies, they claim that the new rule to label AI content, it is impractical, considering the scale, and that detection is prone to error. The government, though, calls it a critical safeguard, adding the cost outweighs the risks that are involved. Big tech also dubbed it a costly burden, as systems will need to meet country-specific mandates. Disrupting the status quo of the infrastructure is what the big tech says. New Delhi isn't budging as it moves to clamp down on misinformation campaigns, deepfakes, and possible election interference. Another issue flagged by companies, they claim, is that the law will dilute encryption and expand surveillance. To meet the demands, platforms, they want a flexible, phased rollout, but India is pushing for a strict and timely enforcement. The problem isn't exclusive to India. The European Union, it has opened a fresh front against Elon Musk's chatbot Grok. The European Union has alleged that the misuse of user data, AI training, and the production of explicit images that are harmful to the victims. In fact, earlier we spoke to an expert on cyber investigations who backs action, not excuses, when it comes to deepfakes. Take a listen.
The situation that we are seeing here in India, because of the AI content, misinformation is spreading everywhere. And it is going to that extent that companies are suffering to their share values, even defaming people. Those are unreported nature, and it is impacting each and every one, because people are even duping through committing cybercrime using AI content. And that's what is the intention of the government. They want these social media platforms to curtail this, to flag it proactively for any user who can understand that this kind of video is as misinformation. Actually, it is just for entertainment purpose, not beyond that. But the concern of these big tech companies are not acceptable. They are just giving an excuse when they can detect an IPR violation, when they can detect a face of a person in millions of images, that, okay, you can tag this person, define this person in your image. They can do so many other interesting things with video and images. But just to notify AI content, they think that it is complicated. I don't buy with this excuse, because this is a normal thing. This is not a technical challenge. This is just a normal expectation. Differentiate a fake misinformation from a real video. That's it. These kind of misinformation are actually targeting masses. And by the time we take it down, lots of people have already lost money. And that's why we have given a window that it should be removed within 3 hours.
New Delhi's most ambitious push for Great Nicobar Island just crossed a major legal hurdle. The National Green Tribunal has cleared the decks for a major infrastructure project, meaning India can begin to make its most southern point a strategic gem. In fact, for the details on this, I'm joined by our correspondent, Rujuta Thete. Rujuta, just how significant is this for India?
So this Great Nicobar is being described as one of the biggest and most strategic locations in the Indian Ocean. Now, the island sits close to the Malacca Strait, which is one of the world's busiest shipping routes. That means maritime movement between Asia, Europe, and Middle East passes close to the island. And because of the location, Great Nicobar gives India a strong vantage point to monitor sea lanes. And it also helps in improving the maritime security and expand its naval presence in the Indo-Pacific. Now, the Great Nicobar project itself is a massive infrastructure plan. The project covers around 166 square kilometers, and it will be one of India's largest greenfield development plans. It also includes large forested areas, which is around 130 square kilometers. And it remains a part of India's 2030 maritime vision strategy. While keeping this in mind, the grand plan here is to make it a major port hub, and with an integrated township along with a dual use, that is civilian and military airport. Now, it will be powered by both gas and solar panels. Now, Great Nicobar is not just environmentally significant here, but it is significant culturally too. It is a part of Andaman and Nicobar chain of over 800 plus islands. And it is also home to India's southernmost landmark, which is the Indira Point. It lies just 90 nautical miles from Indonesia's Sumatra Island and is naturally extremely diverse. The island is also home to indigenous communities like the Shomp Pen and Nicobarese tribes. The counterpiece and the centerpiece here of the project is the transshipment port. The first phase alone is estimated to cost up to $5 billion, and it is to be ready by 2028. It could become one of India's largest ports ever, giving a boost to the country's cargo handling capacity also. It will also cut out the so-called middlemen that are in this process. And right now, Indian cargo often goes through foreign ports like Singapore and Colombo, that's in Sri Lanka. So the Great Nicobar would allow India to handle cargo directly and integrate better into the global supply chains. It would also have the potential to attract shipping traffic on east-west routes, strengthening its strategic presence near critical sea lanes. So in short, Great Nicobar is not just a development project. It is a strategic, economic and security bet for India's future in the Indian Ocean.
All right, Rudita Thete, thank you very much for getting us all those details, in fact, breaking it down for our viewers as well. And I'm now joined by Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnan to help us understand the geographical as well as the defense importance of this very project. Lieutenant General Atta Hasnan, thank you very much for speaking with RT India. This Great Nicobar Island, it sits close to the Malacca Strait. When we talk about this particular project, isn't this India finally claiming its natural strategic advantage, especially in the Indian Ocean, sir?
Thank you very much, firstly, for inviting me on your channel for the first time, being with you all. And let me compliment you on an excellent commentary which you have just given in detail about the geopolitical, the geostrategic angle of, just a second, sorry. Geostrategic angle of the intended port. But having said that, your question is asking me to comment straight away on the strategic part. And I prefer to comment on the economic part first.
Yeah.
Because I do feel that an island port such as this, coming up here in such an important location, right astride the major sea routes on which 80% of the world's container traffic actually travels, is a force multiplier for India economically. Otherwise, all our shipping, a major container traffic, has to be broken down at Colombo, has to be broken down at Singapore, and then be transported northwards into the Bay of Bengal or in the Indian Ocean, into the area of the Arabian Sea. So that is the major advantage which is going to accrue to us. Along with that, you have to remember, India, the entire maritime system, the maritime logistics system, for which India pays very dearly financially, will now come into our own hands. And that's a very important aspect. Now coming to specifically to your question strategically, on the strategic front, I wouldn't like to take an aggressive stance on this right at the beginning. I would say, yes, this is a great opportunity. India is at last coming into its own in terms of having a surveillance point, getting all the maritime data, being strategically so located that, yes, to an extent, monitoring of all traffic through the Straits of Malacca can take place from time to time. But that's not about all. You see, it's an important aspect to keep the economic things alongside the strategic thing together, because that is what together accrues advantage to India.
Yeah. Lieutenant General Atta Hasnan, let's also talk about China and how it has been expanding and growing its naval footprint especially in the Indian Ocean. We have seen for decades that China has expanded its footprint across this particular region. When we talk about this particular project, is this project India's strongest answer yet to Beijing's maritime ambitions?
I think it would be too much in the face to take that kind of a stance and approach right at the beginning.
Okay.
It's a great opportunity. It's something which is in the making. Geostrategically, you can't change the location. It is an amazing location overseeing the entire routes which are moving between the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean. In fact, this area is virtually, you can say, like a hinge. If there's a connect between the Pacific and the Indian Ocean, this is the hinge along the Straits of Malacca, just around the Straits of Malacca. So yes, while China has been attempting to create a blue water navy to move into the Indian Ocean area, it has gone as far as Djibouti and in northwestern Arabian Sea to establish its bases. This is a general area in which it's along the sea routes, it's a broad commitment into land areas, ports, etc., is very, very limited.
Yeah.
India has an advantage here that at the strategically located hinge, we would have a major port city. And as I said, it would be a major port city, no doubt. But obviously, being our territory, we can bring in whatever strategic aspects which are required to be located here, assets which are required to be located here. They could also obviously be brought in here.
Sir, I also want to get your opinion on, the kind of crisis that we are seeing across the world. Look what is happening with respect to Iran and the United States at the moment, what happened with Venezuela. Now, does building a transshipment hub here in this particular region, does it reduce India's vulnerability in times of such crisis, especially if the global supply chain is disrupted, sir?
No doubt, that's an excellent aspect which you have just pointed out. The fact that you have your own hub available to you for conversion of all your traffic from which is going along the main sea routes and then moving them up into the Bay of Bengal and into the Arabian Sea. If it's in your own hands and the infrastructure is with you, the logistics is with you, obviously this is going to be a major advantage to you. Otherwise, you are always hamstrung. Your traffic is always being monitored. It's there in someone else's hands, and you can't dictate to the world geopolitics the way they are moving at the moment as to what happens in the near future. So you're 100% right on that.
Sir, a final word from you. If this project succeeds, could it transform India from a regional maritime power to a certain central security provider in the Indo-Pacific? Do you feel that can happen for India, sir?
You see, the potential is all there. There's no doubt about it. It also depends a lot on the manner in which the Indo-US relationship moves, how the quadrilateral of nations, how their relationship moves, whether the current dynamics of the Quad of Nations ultimately moves into the military environment, domination and that kind of a thing. At the moment, we are all aware that it is not military, not even quasi-military at the moment. But this is definitely a step forward. And we are expecting that by 2028, maybe 29, that this port would be completed. In the run-up to that period, 2 to 3 years, lots of things are going to happen.
Yeah.
At the moment, the focus is not so much on the Indo-Pacific as you would see. It is all on the Middle East. This is also on Europe to a great extent. But I do visualize that a lot of this is going to shift back to the Indo-Pacific in the near future. And when that happens, absolutely, you're 100% right. A presence such as this, a facility such as this, so strategically located, will obviously be a great strategic asset for us.
All right. Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnan, thank you very much for taking out your time and sharing your thoughts on this subject. Thank you very much. Could the new Prime Minister of Bangladesh's first foreign visit be to India? Well, barely 24 hours in office, and Tariq Rahman, he has received an invite for talks from New Delhi. This apparent reset of ties, it also extends to sports, with the minister indicating a willingness to mend relations after a Cricket World Cup boycott.
I met with the Deputy High Commissioner of India and discussed resolving the issue through friendly talks. We want to maintain good relations with neighboring countries and address problems in the sports arena through diplomatic dialogue. In cricket, necessary measures will be taken in accordance with ICC rules through discussion.
A decline in cricketing ties between these two countries seemed to be like the final nail in the coffin, after which relations between India and Bangladesh actually went for a nosedive, and that too right before a very crucial election in Bangladesh. The newly appointed sports minister of Bangladesh has expressed a keen desire to redevelop its cricketing ties with India. Various facets of this relationship underwent a huge overhaul in the last 2 years, partly due to the removal of the Sheikh Hasina-led Awami League government, as well as a strategic geopolitical pivot by Bangladesh away from India under the Muhammad Yunus-led interim administration. But now, with the Bangladesh Nationalist Party in power in Bangladesh, New Delhi wants to chart out a new way forward with Dhaka. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was one of the first leaders to congratulate the newly appointed Bangladeshi Prime Minister Tariq Rahman after his recent parliamentary win. He even extended an invite to him to come to New Delhi.
As two fast-growing economies and aspiring societies, India and Bangladesh can truly become catalysts for each other's sustainable growth, working for each other's security and enable mutual prosperity. I take this opportunity to invite you, along with Dr. Zubaida Rahman and your daughter Zaima, on a visit to India at a mutually convenient time. A warm welcome awaits you in India.
Now, the Prime Minister's message to the newly appointed Prime Minister of Bangladesh was delivered by Om Birla, who is the Speaker of the lower house of the Indian Parliament. Now, Mr. Birla was also accompanied by India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, who also made it a point to reach out to the Amir of the Jamaat-e-Islami, who now is the main opposition leader in Bangladesh. This underscores India's attempt to engage with all parties involved in the making of the new government in Bangladesh. Now, historically, ties between India and Bangladesh have remained strained during the rules of President Ziaur Rahman, as well as his wife Khalida Zia, due to the very fact that the BNP used to represent the pole opposite of what the Awami League, the pro-India Awami League, used to represent in Bangladeshi politics. Now, Sheikh Hasina's extradition also remains to be a sticking point between the relations between both these countries. However, Tariq Rahman and his party have said in the past, in the very recent past in fact, that they seek a new and redeveloped relation with India based upon mutual respect and reciprocity.
Bangladesh wants to reset ties with India on a fresh footing now that ousted Premier Sheikh Hasina and her Awami League party no longer hold power. The two nations should work together for mutual benefit.
All in all, what we've observed is that New Delhi has wasted no time to engage with the newly established leadership in Dhaka, from connectivity and trade to security and regional cooperation. Both sides are actually expressing a willingness to move past what happened in the past previously. Now, whether these developments will actually translate into something concrete on the ground remains to be seen, but what they clearly show is a very deliberate willingness to move ahead and improve the relations between India and Bangladesh.
Well, showing signs of a revival. Well, the former Indian High Commissioner to Bangladesh, Veena Sikri, told us that Delhi-Dhaka relations, it could be on the up again.
This is par for the course as far as Muhammad Yunus was concerned, because in the 18 months that he led this interim regime, which was an unconstitutional regime in any case, he did everything to worsen the ties between India and Pakistan, saying at every turn that, oh, we have to reset, relook, reevaluate, etc. And then he actually started breaking down the strong mutually beneficial framework of cooperation between India and Bangladesh that had been built over the last 15 years. Even during the electoral process, the government of India had several times put strong messages saying the elections should be free, fair and participatory. Of course, we wanted the Awami League to take part, and 70% of the people of Bangladesh wanted that as well. Not that they wanted to vote for the Awami League, but they wanted free, fair and participatory elections as the only indication of a credible election. But we said, and government said, that we will be ready to work with any government that gets elected in this way. So now that the Tariq Rahman Bangladesh Nationalist Party has been elected, we are fully prepared to work with them. The letter from our Prime Minister to Tariq Rahman inviting him to India is the first that he has received from any foreign leader. The telephone call from our Prime Minister was the first from any foreign leader after Tariq Rahman's victory. And the Prime Minister has said in this message that we are catalysts for each other's growth and development. We sustain each other's growth and development. And he's also mentioned security as a big factor, enabling mutual prosperity of India and Bangladesh. So I think these are very strong messages. And the message by the Bangladeshi sports minister says that they are changing what the Yunus regime wants to do. We know that what the Yunus administration did, and now all those sports leaders are leaving the country, I understand. What the sports leaders did was that they, created this issue, raised it to all proportions, tried to bluff even the ICC, which failed miserably. And now the people didn't like it because they value the sporting fight between India and Bangladesh. The Yunus regime had put a lock on all the offices in every corner of Bangladesh, saying they are banned, they can't be around. But quietly, even a few days since the election results, these offices are opening, people are coming there, they're saying Joy Bangla, Joy Bangabandhu, and there's no objection to that. Because if Awami League joins the political mainstream, it will be yet another reassertion of democracy. Tariq Rahman has won his 2/3 victory. He has the right of the people to rule the country, and but carrying everybody along is important for him. It will reduce the strain on law and order and make for good administration.
The third round of crunch talks on finding peace in Ukraine, it has wrapped up in Switzerland after 2 days. Covering the 2 days of negotiations for us, RT's Anastasia Volodina in Geneva. Take a look.
Second day of trilateral talks between the Russian, Ukrainian and the US delegations has officially wrapped up here in Geneva. And of course, the negotiations, the delegations have just left. We've seen them depart from the hotel, which is right behind me, the Intercontinental Hotel, where the negotiations were held for 2 days straight. And according to the Russian lead negotiator, Vladimir Medinsky, he was the only one who actually came out to the press and gave a very short and brief statement regarding the talks. And this is what he had to say. Let's listen in.
As you know, the negotiations lasted 2 days. They went on for a very long time yesterday in various formats, and then again today for about 2 hours. They were tough but businesslike. The next meeting will take place in the near future.
This is the only statement that we've heard so far as the second day of the talks are wrapped up here in Geneva. But what we can say is that at the end of the first day, we haven't heard any statements either. But what we know is that the talks generally have been kept very low-key, very private, all happening behind the closed doors with no press allowed to enter, ask questions, anything of that sort. But according to an RT source from the negotiating team, the talks that took place yesterday, well, they lasted for 6 hours. They were very tense. And they were happening both in the trilateral and bilateral format. So the Russian-Ukrainian delegation spoke to each other, Russian-US, and the trilateral format as well, Russian-Ukrainian and the United States. And according to the source as well, the talks between the Russian and Ukrainian delegations were held actually in Russian language. And Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, who's actively been participating in negotiating and settling the conflict in Ukraine. He's recently visited Moscow. We know that he's spoken to Vladimir Putin. He was here as well. And he posted on his X account that significant progress has been made during the first day of talks. Let's listen in.
The United States moderated a third set of trilateral discussions with Ukraine and Russia. President Trump's success in bringing both sides of this war together has brought about meaningful progress. Both parties agreed to update their respective leaders and continue working towards a deal.
And again, just once again underlining, we have to underline that the talks have been very low-key, very private. But again, according to an RT source, the main focus of the talks, the main topics that were discussed were military and political aspects. And Moscow's stance, remains unchanged, of course. Kiev must withdraw from all of the territory of the Donbass, and it must and for any peace deal to meaningfully succeed. It also, Moscow once again underlined that Kiev has to give up its aspirations to joining NATO. And, Ukraine, on its behalf, stands firm that long-term security guarantees must be provided and must be part of any ceasefire deal. And generally, Zelensky himself, well, first and foremost, of course, once underlining Zelensky is an illegitimate president. His term expired back in May of 2024. But Zelensky still continues to moan about how not enough weapons, not enough money had been so far provided to Kiev. We've heard that during the Munich Security Conference, which just wrapped up just prior to the talks here in Geneva. Yet at the same time, he continues to say that Kiev is seeking and is keen on settling the conflict. We know that Europe has been backing Ukraine militarily as well as financially. And during that Munich Security Conference, we once again heard from Europe that it's eager to support more weapons, more money for Kiev. And despite, that's interesting because that's all happening despite Russia actively gaining ground in Ukraine and despite winning on the battlefield. We earlier heard reports, and that was stated actually by the Ukrainian lead negotiator, Rustem Umerov. He posted on his X account that the Ukrainian delegation actually met with representatives of Italy, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, the UK, here in Geneva, discussing a number of issues, especially how the talks of the first day went on. And he also stated that, and that's interesting because none of these representatives have actually been officially invited to the negotiating table. And of course, yet so far, what we know, of course, as already mentioned, the talks have officially wrapped up here in Geneva with, of course, little information being given out to the press.
And finally, it is the ultimate battle between man and robot. At China's Spring Festival Gala, young Kung Fu masters, they performed alongside humanoid martial artists. From nunchucks to high kicks, the bots, they kept pace with their human partners in a perfectly timed spectacle. The annual TV event is a Lunar New Year staple across hundreds of millions of homes. We leave you with these pictures.